Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is time for the 10 to 1 podcast. We are going to make a list and tell you what it is. It's the start of spooky season. I am one of your hosts, the creepy crypt guy, Josh, and joined, as always, by the terrifying data master, Chet.
It, y- uh, I think that's a compliment. I think, in any event, I'll accept it as a compliment and say I'm super excited to be here tonight. Not only do I actually need the break, like the mental break, like let's pay attention to something else,
Mm-hmm.
because my life is kind of sucky at the moment. Um,
Oh.
but I also, it's really not actually sucky. It's just sucky in the circumstance. But I also, this list does sort of encompass almost every movie that I like about Halloween time. Um, that is not to say that I don't watch these movies at other times too, but these movies definitely are near and dear to my heart for this particular season. Um, and I have I have I don't think anything is going to be controversial, but I do have some on my list that I think are. You'll ask me, why is that on your list?
I feel
So
like I'm going to get the
can't
same
wait.
questions.
Hmm. Well, I'm ready to stand behind my choices with different kinds of rationale, but at the same time, just be aware, not everything quite matches the. It's spooky, but is it spooky like spooky season? I don't know. We'll see.
So, would you say that explains what the list is about, or what is the list about exactly?
Well, okay. Well, the homework that I provided last week as, hey, here's what we're going to do on 10 to 1 was, hey, what are the movies that you watch on Halloween? And I realized afterwards that that's kind of broad. Um, but maybe at the same time, it wasn't as broad as I think it is. I mean, what do you watch on Halloween? Hopefully, that is stuff that makes you feel like you're in touch with your October person, whoever that is. Your Day of the Dead stuff. No, I'm sorry, that's wrong. It's not Day of the Dead. Good lord. Uh, the All Hallows Eve. There we go. All Hallows Eve. Day of the
Yes.
Dead is the next day. Yes. I'm sorry, I'm mixing my mythology
It's
here.
what Dia de los Muertes,
Uh,
November 1st.
it's funny. For as much as I love Halloween, and I mean, we start planning blog stuff for Halloween for a
Oops.
while. Also, just by small way of explanation, I am dog sitting today, and my little whiny pup is sitting by my chair here. So if she gets a little bit voicey, you'll know why. She's a little bit whiny at the moment. Um, uh, and now I completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, I know. As much as I love the Halloween season, and like I said, we start planning for the blog pretty early. This year, it has been really hard to get into the Halloween mindset. I mean, I'm excited and I love this time of year and I love how much stuff is, around. But I'm one of those people this year that I just feel like if we could just jump straight to Christmas, I'd be fine. And I feel like that's sacrilege because, yeah, that's not usually how I am. I'm usually much more into this. So I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe this list will help get me in that mood.
Well, we can hope. But if they're
I'll
going to
hope.
jump us to Christmas, I hope they include all of the paychecks in between now and then.
I'll put a good word in with Santa and see what we can do.
Here you go, Josh. Here's a lot of money.
Were you a good? You got to be good though. You can't be naughty. If you're naughty, you don't get anything.
Ha 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 ha! I haven't been naughty in a long time.
Okay then. I guess paychecks for you.
Well, who wants to get us started with this incredible journey that we're about to take.
How about I'll start? How about
Go
that?
ahead. The floor
All
is
right.
yours.
So my number 10 is, and this list, I have to say, is not. I know we're doing 10 to 1, but this list is, anything on this list has an equal measure in my heart for kind of where it falls in terms of being one of my go-to spooky season movies. Um I hold on one second. Okay. I feel like the my number 10 choice could be at my number 1 choice, but I mean I had to prioritize it somehow. I just had to say that by way of, hey, I could rearrange this list and be pretty happy. Um so my number 10 is It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And I don't just watch It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I also watch It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and then all the other Charlie Brown specials after it, because they're all on one DVD and I love them so much. But It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown is one of those. I think I've been watching this every year since I was like 8, 9. I don't know, something like that. The first year that I saw this, my cousins had already seen it. And they were like, "Oh yeah, this is cool. This is cool." And made me think it was something completely different than it was. And I got super excited, and it turned out not to be that movie, but I still had a good time. And to anybody who doesn't know what It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown is about, let's just say it's it's so iconic for us. It's such a like a moment in kids history, in most kids history, when you realize that, hey, grown-ups tell you a lot of things that may or may not be true, but it's what you sort of take from it that becomes important. It's those traditions, it's the myths, it's all of that. And this movie, it's very short, but this movie does something really special to me for that reason. So that's my number 10. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown.
And I will chime in with I've seen it. It is a Halloween standard, absolutely for sure.
Right?
Nothing really says it's Halloween season quite like that. But it's not on my list.
Wow, that's actually surprising.
I had a feeling someone else might have put it on theirs.
I think I have mentioned this movie a couple times. Just a few. Just a few.
My number 10 is it's going to come out of left field for a lot of people.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Yeah. But honestly,
Is it Clerks?
no, that's a different kind of horror show.
Okay. Just checking.
My number 10 is about life and death. It's about a battle of wits and just a straight up battle against death as our two heroes try to find a way to defeat the person responsible for their death. Of course, I'm talking about Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey.
Oh.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey be on a list about Halloween stuff? Well, like I said, the story begins with our heroes dying and being in the afterlife. And if Halloween is anything, part of that is spooky, ghosty stuff. And spending time in hell, that's I see that as a way of getting into the Halloween spirit. So they, Bill and Ted, Keanu Reeves, Alex Winter, have to take on death. An amazing performance. I know, weird to say that about Bill and Ted, considering how wrapped in cheese they are. But William Sadler does an amazing job as Death, especially when they keep besting him in all of the challenges that keep getting put down.
Oh, right.
Best 2 out of 3, best 3 out of 5. And one of the things that I love about any movie, if they can do it well, is seeing two adversaries be friends at the end. So by the time everything gets wrapped up, they're friends with Death. They're friends with an alien. They're this isn't a time traveling excellent adventure. No, this is a bogus journey where they have to travel to hell and then travel to heaven and then go back home to redeem themselves and all the mischief that the robot versions of them are causing. It's
Wow.
an adventure that
I mean,
really speaks to me when it comes to this time of year.
honestly, I can see it. That explanation was really good, and I can see that. You can see how that kind of lends itself. Although, I will say that I don't know. I don't know if that's the first jump that people would make with Bill and Ted. I mean, I see it, but that one actually might take a little bit of thought.
See, that's why you come at it from an almost academic standpoint, I think, and I'm just nuts.
I mean, yeah, I can accept that. I can.
That's why our lists are so fun to listen to.
Indeed.
So, what is your number 9?
Well, my number 9 is probably the most endearing. Yeah, definitely the most endearing on my list. It's by Neil Gaiman. The story's by Neil Gaiman. And it's about this little girl that moves into this place called the Pink Palace. And I have been enthralled with this movie ever since it came out. And it became one of the movies that's like a go-to for our Halloween spooky season continually. We all sort of like love it. Coraline is the name of the movie. And
Knew that would be on your list.
And it is not just like a good movie. It is such a good story. It plays to so many of the really dark, I think, experiences that sometimes kids imagine that they have, or maybe that they do have. I mean, there's like a huge theory. I haven't seen Neil Gaiman say no to this out there, where fans think that maybe Coraline is actually dead and everything that's happening is basic, or the parents are dead. I'm sorry, not Coraline. The parents are dead. And that is one of the things that 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 makes an interesting idea, because there's so many visual ideas in Coraline that make you think, well, maybe it possible that the time, well, I guess it should be complicated. I mean, it is complicated. I guess I shouldn't get too far into it, but there's so much in this movie that sort of like requires you to use these big levels of reinterpreting what is really happening. There's the world that she belongs to, and then there's the world of the other mother. And in the world of the other mother, it really does feel like there is something alien happening there. And I don't use that word without the context. I mean, I really feel like it is alien, like other mother is something outside of this world. But then there's the other aspects, which are, the souls of the little kids, and altogether, it's just such a creepy story. And any kid who's ever experienced even that momentary sense of, I'm alone and I need someone to be with me, and I'm not getting that, I think immediately identifies with Coraline. Like, you want to be independent, but you know that you need your parents. You love your parents, but you also hate your parents. There's the way that you see things, and then there's maybe the way that you should see things. It's just a fascinating story. So that is my number 9, Coraline.
Everything you said is spot on. Coraline strikes hard with the feels of what it's like to be a sort of alienated kid,
Hmm.
and surrounds those feelings with sort of Alice in Wonderland approach of this very abnormal world that Coraline's trying to find her place. It's absolutely wonderful movie.
Yeah, this is one of my most favorite by Neil Gaiman, other than perhaps Sandman. So that says a lot because I hold that to a very high regard. So, what is yours?
Well, my number 9 has ghosts.
Mm.
Yeah, more ghosts. And it has a a character named Ray, and it has the very famous catchphrase, "Who are you going to call? Somebody else," because I'm talking about Casper. Yes, Casper, the 1995 film based on the old comic strip and cartoon about the friendly ghost, where a family moves into a haunted house that is inhabited by Casper and his uncles, Stretch, Fatso, and Stinky. When it comes to creepy movies, I'll admit this one's pretty light on the creepiness, other than the "can I keep her?" Wow, dude. Wow. Even for a dead kid, that's just not right. So I first saw this movie, and I think it helped set the stage at a drive-in theater, right? And maybe it was the night that surrounded us. Maybe that large projection uh, out there on the big screen, sitting in the car, help add to the ambiance. But seeing a young Christina Ricci befriend this friendly ghost, and Bill Pullman playing the struggling dad who's just trying to do right by his kid. It's in a way it's heartwarming, but let's face it, we all stuck around for the hilarious hijinks of the ghostly uncles and all of the things that they get up to. And what is Halloween but a night of tricks and treats? And this one leaned heavily into the tricks. And again, it's not super creepy, but seeing him in a human form, young Devon Sawa, weird, man, weird. And that thing at the end, that it's a little bit creepy.
I love this movie. My kids loved this movie so much. I mean, we watched this a lot. And one of the things that I love the most about this movie is the unassuming nature of pretty much everybody. I mean, everybody screws up, everybody gets into trouble. Even uh, Kerrigan is, I mean, delightfully villainous, just over the top, excellent. And I, I there isn't very much in this movie that doesn't kind of make you feel like um there's hope. There's something kind of, interesting about even in death, people still have uh good intentions, or they can have good intentions. I love the fact that uh, that um, that Kat's mom was basically behind, or not behind, but knew the ghosts, right? And was sort of like, there was just something so good about this movie that it was hard to find fault with it, even in the small creepy spots. Because it's just, it's impossible to see this and not feel like, yeah, this is exactly what the kids' version of a haunted house would be.
It does have a layer of wholesomeness that a lot of other movies that are supposed to fill this type of, you know, setting um, don't have. And that's why, it's definitely one that's fun for, in my opinion, grown-ups as well as, any kids you might have laying around that want to watch a movie.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's a very good ghost story. I definitely think it's a good. I mean, it's not. Let's face it. It's silly. It's absolutely silly. But it has that family quality to it that makes it appropriate because it is silly. So yeah, I think that totally works. Well, my next movie is anything but silly. In fact, this movie encouraged me to take a look on a very deep level. I wrote this massive paper because of this movie, on the impact of urban legends on the horror genre in movies, and how we base so much of our horror movie tropes on urban legend type aspects. And so if I say urban legend and I say horror movie, most people know I'm talking about Candyman right away, but in case you didn't, it's Candyman. um Candyman is one of the, let's put the remake aside, because the remake has its own unique place, I think, in sort of Candyman lore. But the original Candyman has this kind of very unique position in storytelling excellence that has been really hard to recreate. It stands alone. Um, it's dark. It's so dark, and it feels threatening at every single level. But it also feels iconically real. Like, I don't know how you get to a place where inner city and gentrification and understanding clashes between culture and race combine to just make the most perfect horror analogy. That everything about this story is just really good. And the urban legend part of it is so fascinating to me because Candyman basically becomes his own urban legend. But then that urban legend continues to perpetuate, and it's carried on through Helen, and it just, it fits. It works so well that when I watch this movie during spooky season, I have a whole bunch of recipes at my blog for it because I love this movie so much. Um, when you watch this movie, it's really difficult not to feel that sense of true dread. So that's why this movie is on my list. I love every single performance. Every single person in this movie does exactly what they should do. Like, there is not a piece out of place here. It's absolute brilliance. So it captures my number 8 spot.
That is funny because my number 8 falls under very similar circumstances.
Really?
Yes, except it's not about urban legend, but it's about a group of kids that get trapped in a death house
Oh.
with a madman, who some also call the Candyman.
Oh.
Yeah, of course I'm talking about Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
I knew that.
again,
Okay, which version though? Are we talking about Gene Wilder or are we talking about Johnny Depp?
oh, remember
Important
Johnny Depp was
differentiation.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Oh, that's right. Okay, well, I mean, broadly, I feel like people, well, okay, by people I mean me, hear that title and go, yeah, okay, could be either. All right, carry on.
I think the Johnny Depp version is creepy in a more aesthetic kind of way,
Mm.
but the original Gene Wilder classic, let's face it, Willy Wonka was a madman
It's true.
where kids maybe died, maybe, and he has absolute zero remorse for anything that happens to him. Yeah, I mean, mind you, gets the lessons that they're supposed to be learning, so he's like, man, it's their own fault. So yeah, I understand that, but he shows no empathy for anybody um, at all. Not to mention I don't want to use the slave word here, but Oompa Loompas, one, visually creepy as hell. Two, and that's no offense to the the little people that played in the movie. Like, come on. Um, oh, there are so many jokes I can make here, but I'll stay away from that line. Uh, and I'll say that the orange skin and the green hair and the really awkward dancing uh, kind of creeps me out. But other than the really weird delivery of some of the lines Willy Wonka has, I will say one of the things that should be remembered is when it comes to Halloween, when it comes to spooky season, it's not just tricks, but it is treats. And when it comes to treats, when it comes to sweets, there really isn't much more in that department than a freaking movie about a chocolate factory. So that is why it is made my number 8. My Candyman, if you will, is Willy Wonka.
Nice. I would love to see the crossover where Candyman and Willy Wonka battle it out. No, not really, but
I
sounded
think
good to say at
Willy
the
Wonka
moment.
might take that.
But it's possible.
It'd be
I
like,
mean,
it'd be like another Saw movie where Candyman has to go into the chocolate factory.
Yeah, yeah. It's got some potential. I'm not writing it though. Nope, not me. Okay, moving right along. My number 7 also involves uh children. Well, a child. Um a child who is terrorized by a doll. Yes, I'm talking about Child's Play. Um in fact, just in case you didn't know, tonight, October the 5th, is the premiere of season 2 of Chucky, which is going unbelievably well. I absolutely love the series. It is so good. I cannot I cannot believe I walked into the series not expecting anything, just feeling like, well, what in the world are they going to do? I mean, I really was not prepared to like it at all. I just felt like I should give it a chance because I love the movie so much. It's amazing. But the movie on my list here makes it to one of our favorite spook season movies, one of our favorite movies to watch on Halloween, because this particular movie was one of the few movies that, first of all, ever scared my one of my kids. I won't call them out, but it scared them enough that we weren't allowed to watch this movie for the longest time, because it really did creep this kid out like a lot. So we didn't. And then the kid actually said at one point, "Okay, I'm ready. Let's watch it." And did kind of a 180 where they were like, Oh, this is so good. I see why I was scared of it. I also realized that, you know, that was silly. So for that reason, it's kind of a family tradition now that we watch Child's Play around Halloween. It's just a big thing. As a movie, it's silly. Child's Play is a silly movie, but somehow Child's Play, I think, with the voodoo, makes it creepy enough that, hey, overpowering a child's will is not very difficult, and the creepy doll part, which is what most people get super upset about, um, is, I mean, it is sort of silly, but it works somehow. I think because everybody's reaction to Chucky is so over the top, and I have to say I really love that. I mean, I do really love the overacting in Child's Play. It totally works. And like I said, one more pitch, one more plug. Chucky the series is it's everything that you wanted a Chucky movie to be but didn't get out of the movies. That's what the series is right now. So I highly recommend it. So that's my number 7, Child's Play. Charles Lee Ray.
And I'll get around to watching it eventually.
Oh, you haven't seen Child's Play?
I've seen one Child's Play movie, and it was Bride of Chucky.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, Bride of Chucky has its own sort of spot in the Child's Play Hall of Fame, but it's not Child's Play. I mean, it's, it has a place in the lore, but by then things had really progressed. Child's Play itself is sort of it's far more spooky whimsical.
Yeah,
If that even is straight.
thought it looked hilarious. That's why I went to see it.
I mean, if you really think about it, it probably is. But if you're, I don't know. There is something about it though that is like, especially if you are creeped out by inanimate objects. If you're creeped out by dolls, this is not the movie to watch because it really does make you feel like, oh wow, okay, what else in my house might be possibly sentient, and malevolent at the same time. So yeah, so interesting.
So avoid this movie and The Brave Little Toaster.
Yeah, actually, yeah. That's actually a scarier movie than Child's Play, I think. So what is on your number 7?
There are so many ways to open up the way to talk about this movie. And I'll start with, it's about a family that moves into a haunted house. That's
okay.
Going to be a theme, apparently.
That's like 90% of all the movies that are scary movies. Okay, proceed.
I just realized that this isn't the first time, this theme appears on the list, and it's not going to be the last. But this one is about a couple that died, and they want the people to, the living people, to move out.
But okay, go ahead. I just didn't want you to say the name 3 times because I might get scared. Go ahead.
So they reach out to a freelance bioexorcist by saying his name 3 times. He pops up and you hear, "It's showtime." That's right. Beetlejuice. The ghost with the most, baby. Beetlejuice. Oh. That's twice. No, but directed by Tim Burton, 1988. This was my Michael Keaton wake-up call. This was the movie that made me go, Michael Keaton is awesome.
Truth.
And yeah, there was Mr. Mom, but I mean, come on. So Beetlejuice comes in, and of course, he is a guy that's pretty much up to no good. And the couple that wants these living people out of their house have also grown kind of fond of Lydia, was it?
Yeah, Lydia.
So there's this unlikely friendship involved, which I already mentioned. I love. But the movie shines because of the titular character as Catherine O'Hara and Jeffrey Jones just get crushed by the hijinks that ensue. I mean, can you even think about tallying bananas without thinking of this movie?
Nope.
There's a dance number. There's the bureaucracy of death after life. There's a handbook for the recently deceased. This makes me really, really, really wish that the afterlife is this. I want to do paperwork after I die.
I think you're the only person.
I think I am too. But I also want to be a bioexorcist. Just throwing that out there again. But Beetle, almost said it the third time. But this film is more fun about the dead than should be legally allowed. No one should want to be dead so badly, just because they make it look so great.
We love this movie so much that we actually have different housing decor that is all like, we have a pillow that is it looks like it's a puffy version of Handbook for the Recently Deceased. We have the the Beetlejuice, that funky fireplace that comes up when the demonic priest comes in to officiate the wedding. We have that as like a little figurine thing. What else do we have? We have something else too. For the longest time, both of my kids had Beetlejuice PJs because they thought that they were super cool. Yes, we really love this movie. Also, can I just say that this movie is one of the first movies where I ever saw, well, I shouldn't say I ever saw, but it's one of the first memorable movies where the adults are just crazy. They're just crazy. That family is just beyond the pale. And as crazy as I thought my family was growing up, I felt so normal by comparison, and it was reassuring and kind of a good feeling. So yeah. Every performance in this is so funny though. I mean, really. It's such a pitch perfect movie again. So good choice. Very good choice.
Every costume is brilliant, including the black and white striped
Even
suit.
Otho's. Love Otho.
And just real quick, you talked about how it has influenced your decorating style.
Indeed.
Well, Beetlejuice has also influenced my decorating style in a very opposite way of yours, because I will absolutely refuse to buy any furniture that could possibly come to life and, entrap me or wallop me. So
that makes a lot of sense, actually. I can totally understand that.
It's definitely made me very cautious when it comes to furniture buying.
Okay. So the next movie on my list is for the longest time, this movie scare is like maybe a little bit too harsh, but it psychologically impacted me. And I think partly it's because I read this sort of before I saw the movie version, so I kind of knew what to expect. But watching it manifest was, I don't know why, it was definitely it it, it made me feel like really creeped out. Um I already loved everything that was Clive Barker, but Hellraiser as a movie is one of our, we must absolutely watch this during our Halloween epic, because it isn't just Halloween, or I'm sorry, Halloween. Well, Halloween as a holiday isn't just about, well, okay, well, what scares you and ghosts and goblins and things like that. Halloween is also like the sort of this weird time when you are so engaged in thinking about um, things that are, between good and evil, but also like the veil between what we understand is real and then what we kind of aren't really sure about. And Hellraiser sort of sits in between that. Like, it's the idea that there are interdimensional beings that play with the mind, literally with the minds, like physically with the minds of humans who interact with the box, is, it's kind of scary on like multiple different levels. But we really like watching this because I swear every time we watch Hellraiser, we have a conversation afterwards about something sort of philosophical about what the box might mean, or what Pinhead might mean, or how we can interpret the language in Hellraiser, even the relationship between Kirsty and Frank. Like, as my kids have gotten older, and as sort of our viewing uh, has opened up to talking about deeper, darker things, that one relationship it's very squicky, but it's squicky in a way that's like, perfectly, yeah, this is exactly what belongs in Hellraiser. Also, um, there's something about Hellraiser from a story perspective that is perfectly set, right? It's not just that the first act, the second act, and the third act work together. It's that there is something that happens here as an undercurrent that keeps you on edge all the way until the end. Um, and there's so many questions at the end that you don't even feel like you necessarily have a perfect resolution. You just have an ending. And I kind of loved that. So Hellraiser definitely is one of those movies that we watch every single year around this time. And I think, I don't know a lot of people that watch it as much as we do. Although I will say that there, again, just like Child's Play, there is a remake out of Hellraiser that is right around the corner. And they redid Pinhead. They have all kinds of new and imaginative ideas for the Cenobites. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Got a comment from my sister saying she's listening.
All right.
Excellent choice there, Hellraiser.
Have you seen Hellraiser?
Gonna raise some heck.
Have you seen Hellraiser?
No.
Okay, so you don't really know what I'm talking about when I talk about Kirsty and Frank.
I do not.
I will say that one of my most popular recipes on Movies and Meals is Frank's famous ribs. And if you've seen Hellraiser, you kind of sickeningly understand where that all kind of comes from. But it's one of the most popular recipes on the blog. So,
You know what I'm going to do right this second? I'm going to type Hellraiser. I said I'm going to type, not Elray, Hellraiser into the old letterbox search engine. Bring it up. See that it is streaming on Prime Video, and I will make that my homework. So
It's worth it. It's worth it.
it's already on my watch list, and I will have seen it by the time we get to our list next week.
All right. You have to tell me what you think about it.
I will most certainly do that. But in the meantime, we're going to close out the bottom half of the list with my number 6. And this one's not about a family that moves into a haunted house. I promise. It's about a guy that works in a haunted restaurant. Now, when I first saw this advertised, the first thing I thought was, oh, because the Five Nights at Freddy movie is taking absolutely forever to get made, someone's like, yeah, we'll do it instead. And they did. And so in 2021, we got Willy's Wonderland.
Oh my God.
Yes, it is a absolute crazy film that is covered in pounds and pounds of awful, kids pizza cheese, right? This guy, played by Nicolas Cage, his car breaks down and he agrees to clean an old, family pizza style restaurant a la Chuck E. Cheese in return for getting his car repaired. So he shows up at the restaurant, starts cleaning, downs an energy drink. Everything's fine. The only thing is, the mechanic and basically everybody is kind of involved in this scheme to have people's cars break down so they can work at the restaurant overnight and get murdered by the animatronics inside. Except they didn't count on Nicolas Cage. One of my favorite things, I realized it 2 seconds after he meets the first animatronic, where it attacks him and he starts bleeding. He does the, touch the blood thing, but he's not freaking out that there's this, possessed robot, attacking him. He kind of like looks at the blood and then he like slowly looks at the bird like, what? Like, he has this really pissed off expression on his face. Again, not scared, not, freaking out, just that calm, cool. And it's the bird that freaks out after that and gives a as he pummels it to death. And it was then I realized, wait. This isn't your standard I'm stuck in a haunted place with murderous thing kind of movie. No. These things are stuck in there with him. So as the night progresses, and yes, he's still cleaning the restaurant, and yes, he's still downing energy drinks, and these things start just attacking him pretty much one by one, he just destroys all of them. And I'm sorry if that's kind of spoilery, but honestly, that's what the movie is. It's not him. Oh no, what am I going to do? Where am I going to run? These things are hunting me. He knows he has a job to do to get his car fixed, and no one's expecting him to actually be able to do it because he is a sacrifice to these things,
right?
Quite literally, and he's continuing to clean, and as they all come after him, he just takes it all in stride, and he's like the coolest damn character I've ever seen, and doesn't say a word.
Yeah, he doesn't have even a single line of dialogue in that entire movie. Hey, I have news.
No, do you?
Are you ready?
Yeah.
hmm Across my wonderful internet desk this morning came news that Blumhouse is adapting Five Nights at Freddy into a movie, and it's going to start shooting in early 2023.
So they're finally moving forward on it, huh?
Yeah, well, with Blumhouse at the wheel, I think they'll probably get someplace. But let's talk about this for a second, because it certainly will not be Willy's Wonderland, which
No.
has a kind of whimsical horror all to itself. And one of the things that actually works in this movie, which I feel like is very underrated, is the group of teenagers on the outside that are trying to basically save Nicolas Cage's character from the horrors inside when he quite clearly doesn't need any help. But um, it speaks to this, like, I don't know how to describe this, like the scales of good and evil are constantly being mm, the scales of good and evil are constantly being uh there's a weighing that's going on, right? And so
hmm
as much evil as there is a significant amount of good happening on the other side. Good intentions, um people wanting to help even when they feel like it may lead to their own demise. It's a big thing. Nicolas Cage's character, however, is one of those it's one of the few kinds of characters in a movie that basically never changes. Like, there is no redemption arc, there is no real growth, there is nothing. It is just Nicolas Cage being Nicolas Cage in a scary horror version of Chuck E. Cheese.
hmm
And I mean, you have to appreciate that for just absolutely what it is. I have to ask though, is this now an actual movie that you are including in your spooky season um portfolio? Is this something that now is going to be like watchable next year and the year after and the year after that? Or does it kind of lose its charm after you see it the first time?
I've seen it 3 times since it's come out,
Ooh.
and I'm not going to say it gets better with every watching, but it's one of those movies where, kind of like people used to put on Top Gun back in the day, and they just want to pump their fist and go, "Yes,
Right.
that is awesome." And I think it falls under that category where
Okay.
it. I love his character,
Yeah.
not because he says cool things, just because he quietly handles his business, not just with the monsters, but with the restaurant.
Yeah.
He takes care of everything and leaves, you know, no doubt that he knows what I want to see more of this guy. I don't. I really, part of me doesn't want to either because there's something to be said about a good standalone movie, but God, if this became some sort of franchise where it's Nicolas Cage not saying a word, finding himself in precarious situation after precarious situation, a la Scooby Doo, you know, where he just keeps happening to come across, these freaky haunted places, or even if it's a supernatural thing where he's hunting these things down just kind of inconspicuously, that would be cool too. But
I
just
mean,
yeah,
to put this into perspective, right? Nicolas Cage's character is so nondescript that basically the character description itself doesn't even have a name. He's identified as the janitor because he never says his name. So that's why I'm saying, like, there is a sense of just um it's a it's a solid line that the character wanders all the way through, and then all the other stuff happens around him, but he has zero character growth. There is no redemption arc. There's nothing. He is just a solid mass, a wall that just exists in this movie. And it's so good. I mean, part of the fun, I think, of this movie is realizing that it's not just that the creatures are after him, it's that he's taking pride in his work. I mean, he cleans. He's not just taking out the trash, he's actually taking out the trash.
And playing pinball.
I very much loved this movie. So
That's
good choice.
one of the other great parts. He makes sure that he doesn't just work through the night. You know, he's not some sort of workhorse, right? He's not just fighting the monsters. No, he schedules himself frequent breaks just to make sure that, you know, he has time to grab a drink and play some pinball.
Mm-hmm.
He's got it
Yep.
together. He's got
I
it all
love it.
together. Now let's I like that movie a lot. So let's break into our top fives. What is
All
your
right.
number 5?
My number 5 is, everybody knows this movie. I sometimes think people sleep on it because it can be a little bit campy. And by a little bit campy, I mean probably a lot campy. But it still is creepy as heck. I mean, heck, it's in the name. It's Jeepers Creepers. There's a whole bunch of movies that came after this, and a whole bunch. There's 3. I don't feel like they did any service to the original at all. They didn't. Maybe Jeepers Creepers 2 sort of gave us a little bit more scary, kind of spooky everything. And it definitely felt like, okay, well, now, this thing has been around long enough that there is an actual cycle and they see it. But the original is so scary because everything is just completely out of context. We don't understand motivation. We don't understand any kind of, there's nothing. How is this creature driving a truck? It's a creature. How's it driving? Things like that make you kind of really appreciate the both, okay, I have to suspend belief in order to watch this and have any enjoyment out of it. And also, wow, this is actually kind of crazy. Also, why is this thing driving a truck when it can fly? I mean, like, there are so many inconsistencies and plot holes and all kinds of stuff. It doesn't matter. It's still so fun. And no matter how many times we watch it, we always walk away from this movie going, ooh, I'm really glad that I watched this movie. So that sits in my number 5, Jeepers Creepers, the first one.
Okay, Jeepers Creepers.
Have you seen that?
I think we know the answer to that.
Okay.
I didn't grow up watching a lot of scary movies,
I guess not.
but I did grow up watching this one.
Okay.
It's from 1982. It's my number 5. And it's probably one of the only movies that will still freak me out just from the audio cues. One of them being the music, the sort of theme. And no, it's not Gremlins. That's not a spooky season movie. That's a Christmas movie. Everybody knows this.
I almost put that on my list, but we do watch it. But we watch it twice, so.
It's not The Exorcist. Stop guessing. Let me do my job here. God, if you want to comment in the chat, make sure to join us every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 Pacific on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube. No, the other audio cue, something that I can imitate. And it made me freak out all the way back in the day when there were times when there was nothing on the TV and it was just snow. I'm talking about Poltergeist.
Man, you can't even find that anymore. There are no empty stations anymore. I'm pretty sure it's because we're all completely convinced that if there are empty stations, they will be filled with ghosts. So, yes.
Yes, and because of this, I never saw the remake. I'm going to I'm going to go ahead and put that out there now because it was made during a time when, yes, there was no empty stations to do the snow on. So it would just be completely unbelievable. But this one in particular left me so scarred as a kid because it was just so scary. And let's face it, yeah, it says directed by Toby Hooper, but no, we know the truth. Steven Spielberg got his hands on this one. And every Craig T. Nelson, he's the dad, Steve Freeling. What do you say? I mean, he was Craig T. Nelson, doing his shtick. But some of the things that he just yells about, you moved the cemetery, but you left the bodies, that's crazy. And okay, this is another one of those movies about a family that moves into a haunted house because it was buried on an ancient Indian burial ground. And to make room for this housing development, they were like, yeah, we cleared out all the bodies. Nope. They just cleared out the headstones. And, that kind of pissed off the people that were not quite living there. And Betty says, I met him. He's just as scary in person. When she was 13. But there is so much in this movie that just leaves you absolutely wrecked if you watch it as a kid. You don't look at clowns the same way. You don't look at
no kidding.
trees, especially their shadows, in the same way. God forbid I took care of my teeth just so I wouldn't have to have braces,
Oh my God.
And that iconic music still gives, I'm thinking about it and I'm just getting goosebumps because this is the kind of movie that just strikes you to the core. And that's not even getting to the part where you talk about the behind the scenes stuff, the curse, if you will, and all of the things that happened. That's probably a topic for an entirely different show. But this movie is so embedded into lore that, iconic doesn't even begin to describe it. This is, to me, possibly the scariest movie ever made. And not because it's gory, not because it's filled with jump scares, but because it takes you down and tears you down psychologically, leaving you in such anticipation that by the time the horrors get there, you are already freaking out.
Truthfully, the original marketing for this movie was it knows what scares you. And that in and of itself was kind of, that actually made, I think, a lot of us afraid. I am going to betray how old I am once again, and I'm going to be super sad, but I'll say it anyway. I actually saw this movie in the theater when I was way too little to be watching this kind of movie. But, hey, it was the 80s, and apparently that's just what you did in the 80s. You dropped your kid off at the movie theater and it didn't matter what they watched. I was super scared by this movie. So scared that I had to check underneath the bed like twice to make sure that there was nothing under it. There were no clowns. But you know what really scared me? And it probably shouldn't have, because when I see it now, it just looks funny. Is the monster that comes out of the closet when JoBeth Williams, when that character is confronting the second time that they go through, okay, well, there's definitely, ghosts in the house. It's this big white kind of spindly looking thing with a face, and that terrified me. It was only on screen for a short bit, but it terrified me. And I mean, it's hard now for me not to look at it and go, oh, look, it's Falcor's kind of uglier cousin or something. It's a luck dragon gone wrong. But I mean, the original concept for this was so frightening, and I can't even begin to describe to you all of the things that Poltergeist did in my mind toward making me afraid of things. Like, don't go in a swimming pool after dark. I don't care how many lights are on. There's probably going to be spooky skeletons that are going to
Yeah,
come out.
don't do it.
If there's a thunderstorm, stay away from the window because there might be a tree. It was just magically going to come alive and get you. Yes,
Yeah.
those kinds of things. I even did the whole when I think it's when they're in the bathtub and there's all of the like ectoplasm and stuff. For the longest time I wouldn't even let anything like a bubble bath near my bath because I was afraid that it could possibly be something like that. I don't know. It was very silly. But anyway, yes, this movie definitely did some serious psychological damage to my brain. I think the only reason that we don't watch this over and over again is because none of my kids wanted to see this movie, and most of my grown-up friends are still super averse to it. So in a way, you know, they can't really set aside their no, this movie creeped me out too much, I'm not going to watch it kind of feel. So good choice. Very good choice.
If I'm going to be watching it, I'm going to need someone to, hide behind.
Yeah, yeah. Also, can we just talk about real quick? This, in fact, I think that this movie was talked about on the special that I watched about cursed films, and how a lot of the characters, a lot of the actors on this film ended up dying horrible deaths, for all kinds of different reasons. I mean, correlation is this very broad kind of topic. But it was really interesting that a lot of the people who worked on these films all together did not fare very well. Kind of just one of those like, yeah, in the back of your mind, you're going, okay, one more reason to keep that kind of idea in your head that is it real? Is it possible? Is it real? Yeah, those kinds of things. I'm gonna say that my next choice is one that probably everyone has seen, and I'm just gonna assume that most people like it because I can't think of a single person, if I mention this movie, that doesn't want to sing along to it. It is Little Shop of Horrors. Audrey 2 is my favorite character. This is the first time I think I watched a musical and was so horrified by the lyrics of the songs as they correlated to the story, that it made me not want to sing because it felt so gross. Especially the dentist song. That's it's. I mean, it's awesome, but it's also awful. We watch this movie at least once a year, usually around this time. We have done things like make Audrey 2s to put around our platters and stuff for when we do snack nights. We've also really gone to great lengths to make sure that every time one of our really favorite songs comes on, we, don't get on each other for singing out loud because none of us have good singing voices, but we all love this music. So, number 4 for me is Little Shop of Horrors. Please tell me you've seen Little Shop of Horrors.
Many times.
Okay, good. I was going to get worried.
In fact, I saw a picture of Rick Moranis recently, and it said at Little Shop of Horrors, that's when he got his now iconic glasses, so he could suddenly see more.
That's really cute. That is really cute. Little Shop of Horrors is also the first time that I ever saw a movie that used the muses as sort of like a plot device. And
Hmm.
I absolutely loved it. I mean, I absolutely, obviously, if you watch the Disney version of Hercules, right, you get that same feeling where the muses are basically like telling the story behind the story. But in Little Shop of Horrors, the muses feel like if you watch their costume changes, holy crap, they're amazing. I mean, it, this movie is like so good on so many different levels that each time you watch it, you kind of like uncover something a little bit different. Um, there's just something so cool about it. So I highly recommend this movie, and obviously watching it year to year is just really cool.
If there was ever a musical that I could be in for spooky season, this would be it.
Yeah, it's very good. It's very good. So we are at number 4. What's your number 4?
Well, I did a terribly mean thing to everybody earlier by teasing it, but no more. My number 4 is, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. And of course, I'm talking the original 1984 version with Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Harold Ramis, and Ernie Hudson. Why? Because when someone asks if you're a god, you say yes. It's one of those near perfect movies that a lot of uh, a lot of people try to emulate, but never quite duplicate. Even in the 2016 Ghostbusters, they just couldn't quite match the tone. And I always explain it like this: Ghostbusters was a horror movie where the characters are witty. That's it. That's that's the long and short of it. That's why it's successful. Because they made a horror movie where the people are funny. Because let's face it, that opening scene in the library is spooky and kind of scary. But
Hmm.
the comedy comes from how the guys react to these outrageous situations with the ghosts. There's no pratfalls. There's no uh, real slapstick. Everything around them is very serious, but they kind of look at life from a slanted perspective. Especially, Venkman. He's such a, I don't want to say nihilist, but he's so jaded as a human being that the sarcasm flows like water, no matter what.
Right.
So they're, I mean, let's admit, they're smartasses, and that's why they get along. That's also why they fight. It's why they argue sometimes. It's just for and I, I could spend so much time unpacking this, but Ivan Reitman did an amazing job directing this movie, and um, out of all of the Ghostbusters movies, I know, yes, there's 4, but some people are like, there's only 3. Yeah, I think Ghostbusters Afterlife is the second best. Anyway, digressing. Back to the original point. It's a horror movie.
That just so happens to be told by very sarcastic and witty people.
Yes, and that's why it not only cracked my top 5, but landed at my number 4 spot. It is practically perfect in every way.
Nice. I agree. And also, once again, we are now in the top 3. And I have to say, I'm surprised because we have not had any overlap again. That, of course, may change, but I doubt it because I don't think anything that's in my top 3 will end up being a movie that let's just say a movie that you would have watched or have watched. I'm guessing maybe you've seen one of these in my top 3. I won't say which one, but my number 3 is a
Mhm.
movie that makes me super happy every single time I see it. Mostly for the story itself, but secondarily for the technical perfection that this movie encompasses and the very interesting retelling, I should say, of this kind of folklore material. It's called The Witch. Um, there is something incredibly stark about this film that everything from sort of like harsh lighting to less color, like a desaturated kind of color palette, to dialogue that is dense to hear, but fairly sparse all throughout. It's very peppered. Um, it it is just an unbelievably good movie that is about so much more than just what we think it's about. I mean, there's a kind of metamorphosis that's happening here. There is this idea, what or who is Black Phillip really? um, all of these things kind of combine to make this movie work on many levels. And there's so much there, I think the thing is that this movie makes you feel like the wretchedness of the human condition is the very reason that we seek and hold on to hope in every single form. So it's not like we hold on to hope even if it's supernatural in its inception, because that's how wretched our lives can feel. It's just brilliantly done. I absolutely love this movie, and it is definitely a big one for us to watch every year. Again, this one has a number of recipes over at Movies and Meals because we love to celebrate this movie. So, The Witch is my number 3.
It is not on my Vivach history. See what I did there?
I'm actually kind of surprised that you haven't seen The Witch, because I can't say it's recent. I mean, it's not quite 10 years old. It's like 8 years old. But it has had such an impact on cinema since it was released. It for a number of different reasons. And Anna Taylor-Joy really made sort of her debut, well, maybe not her debut, but she made a huge splash. And all of a sudden, her the worth of her acting was just absolutely appreciated. And it's amazing. I mean, she's an amazing actress using an amazing palette of emotions behind this character. Thomason is so complex. I mean, to watch this movie is a treat for all of your senses. I think I could say that. But it's also very at the center. It's so hollow and soul sucking, I think, is maybe a good way of saying it. It's really good. Like, I would really, and it's not that scary. Like, it's not like there's a million jump scares or anything like that. It's not that kind of movie. It's this slow burn kind of horror that just, man, it works so well. So I hope you watch it.
Oh, I just saw that it recently got put on one of my streaming services, so it's on my radar for this spooky season. And when you describe it as a slow burn, that's when it comes to being creeped out or freaked out by movies. That's exactly the kind of thing that I aim for. I'm not really down with the jump scares or That'd be funny to see some jump stairs.
Might work. I don't know. Who knows?
Or, the body horror stuff. It's like, But the slow, get under your skin kind of horror, kind of spooky is definitely my favorite.
I think you'll like this then. I really do. So where are you with movies at number 3?
My number 3. Just watched this. What day is it? Wednesday. So I just watched this Sunday. As a matter of fact, this is my most recent viewing, and it's a classic tale that belongs in any spooky kind of list, especially when it comes to spooky season. I'm talking about the tale of Frankenstein.
Oh, which Frankenstein is what we all want to know.
The best one, of course. Young Frankenstein.
Of course.
My goodness, Gene Wilder making a second appearance on my list. That kind of maybe makes you think I think a certain way about Gene Wilder. But
It might be a little bit abnormal. I don't know.
might be a little bit abnormal, yes. What's not to love about this movie? It's the tale of young Frederick Frankenstein as he inherits his grandfather's castle. His grandfather, who he thought a madman, and finds out maybe he was onto something as he gets help from his trusted assistant Igor, and led around by Frau Blucher. I wish I had a sound effect for that, but I guess that's going to have to do. And nobody can tell me different that Terry Garr looks like, or I should say, Jenna Elfman looks like a freaking young Terry Garr.
Oh, absolutely.
It is uncanny, the resemblance.
Yep.
To me. So, Marty Feldman, Peter Boyle, it is the story of Frankenstein. I'm sorry, Frankenstein, and it is all layered with that brilliant mind of Mel Brooks. The comedy is absolutely top notch. The scene where the monster meets the little girl, and it's like, what should we throw in the well next? And get that little look at the camera, like he's going to throw the kid in the well. It's like, nope, because the parents are starting to look for the kid, and they're like, did you check upstairs? No. So they go to check upstairs, and at the same time they're doing the teeter-totter, and boom, whoop, kid lands in the bed. Everything about this is absolute. From the opening where he stabs himself in the leg with a scalpel, and he's like, class dismissed. All wonderful, wonderful lines. Mel Brooks proving time and time again that he is, in my opinion, one of the greatest writers of not only his, but any generation when it comes to comedy, where he could take the story of Frankenstein and turn it into such a farce, a story that everybody knows, and people swear by its spookiness and all of the there's a word I'm thinking of here, but hell if I know what it is. But Frankenstein's a classic for a reason. So to be able to take that classic and for Mel Brooks to make something completely original out of it and make it brilliant is why it's my number 3 for spooky season. It's excellent in every way.
I have to say that this is one of the few movies that, first of all, absolutely belongs in black and white. I shouldn't say that. Lots of movies belong in black and white. This movie totally works in black and white, despite the fact that it was filmed and produced at a time when being in color was definitely that's what movies were. But they specifically chose black and white, and it just everything works there. Secondly, Madeline Kahn is her performance is so good, not just because she plays the kind of drama diva that absolutely works, but also because I feel like in Young Frankenstein, although there's a lot of what I would call like prank humor, the story itself is absolutely manageable even without all of that. Like everything that is the humor in Young Frankenstein is just gravy on top of being a pretty funny story about Frankenstein. It just absolutely works on so many levels. And yes, I also agree that Mel Brooks has there is a special kind of magic around a Mel Brooks movie. And this particular movie, I think, captures sort of like the best of the best of the best of Mel Brooks. So, yes, excellent. Very good choice.
I don't know. Abby, something.
Oh God, we use that like in our everyday speech. We will say things when something doesn't seem right. We actually quote the movie quite often, so has also had a big influence on us.
Mhm.
Another movie that we quote a lot, and also sing a lot. It's amazing that there are 2 musicals in my list, but here they are. Uh, No Halloween would be complete for us if we didn't watch Rocky Horror Picture Show. Um, this it's been done in it's been redone. The remake of Rocky Horror Picture was actually really good. I wish people would have given it much more of a chance. It was really fun. The music was just as good. The characters were super interesting. But there is sort of this like nostalgic magic to seeing your familiars on the screen. And it's I think also one of the things that we love about Rocky Horror Picture is there is this whole sequence of stuff that you're supposed to do. Um, the other thing is Tim Curry just makes people happy. Um, I can't watch anything with Tim Curry and not be absolutely delighted. Like it just makes you feel good. I love this movie, both for the music and for the story, although the story is silly, but it's still just epically Halloween. It fits every single sort of thing that you need to cover for what is fun at Halloween. The other thing is it's not afraid to poke fun at itself, which in this house is a huge deal. So when you can sort of be self-deprecating, that's what you want to do. And Rocky Horror Picture Show does that sort of automatically, which is just amazing. So that's my number 2 Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Name this Tim Curry movie. Cedric, don't count your tips in public.
Oh God, it is. Oh God, why can't I know this movie? I know this movie.
Here's
No, I
another
can't
line from
remember.
it. I love you.
I'm so stupid. Home Alone.
Could we be more specific?
Home Alone 2 Lost in New York.
Correct.
There we go. You're supposed to go ding, 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 ding. Tell her what she's won.
Okay. Ding, ding, ding. Tell her what she's won.
Is it a stay?
You have won an all expenses paid trip to probably your living room.
There's nothing about. I mean, obviously, there's like Tim Curry just sort of fits everything. Another one that I didn't put on my list, but that we usually watch on Halloween. We just don't always watch it because we watch it all through the year too. Is Legend? That was the Ridley Scott with Tom Cruise, and Tim Curry is Darkness. Um, there's nothing about that performance either that doesn't leave you just going, "Oh my god, that was so amazing." So, yeah. Didn't make it to the list, but another Tim Curry absolute gem. Have you seen Rocky Horror Picture? Have you ever watched it?
Yes, absolutely.
This was a big thing in college for me. There was a cinema, a theater that used to play Rocky Horror Picture on the weekends, and God bless them, they were so patient with us. They let us throw things, they let us do all kinds of stuff. It was so fun. It was an absolute um, social event to go and see Rocky Horror Picture.
No,
Really loved
I
it.
have not seen it publicly. Real quick story. The first time I saw it, I was actually in college, and I was in an acting class.
Oh, cool.
One of the things that our professor told us to do was, put together some vignettes for a little performance piece at the end of the year. And one of my fellow students wanted to do the time warp. So she
Oh,
invited
nice.
everybody over to her house to watch Rocky Horror. And that was the first time I saw it. And there was one guy there that showed up. And as we're getting settled in to watch the movie, um, he says at the last second, "I can't do this. It's against my religion." Like, okay,
Oh God.
cool.
Huh?
So we're going to be a man down. And in case anybody's wondering, my idea for the little performance piece was doing a take on Weekend Update. So I wrote an entire Weekend Update sketch and
Nice.
performed it. But that is neither here nor there because it is then, and it's time to move on to my number two. And
What is your number two?
some people are going to see my number two and they're going to be like, "How is that not number one?"
I felt the same way about some of mine on my list already. So
Well, I'm going to say it's not my number one because I don't want it to be there. And I'll explain why when I get to my number one. But my number two is 1978, directed by John Carpenter. It's Halloween.
oh, of course.
How could any list I put together about what to watch in the spooky season not include a Halloween movie? There's like 50 of them. That's a bit of an exaggeration. But it's not the one where evil dies tonight, so there's that. It's the one where evil starts tonight and gives us Jamie Lee Curtis as an honest to God scream queen. And let's face it, babysitters were targets after this, for the Michael Myers types out there, right?
I hope there's no Michael Myers types out there. If there are, then y'all belong in an asylum.
I
Just
think
saying.
when I mentioned earlier that audio cues, like from Poltergeist, really freaked me out. This again falls under the category of the music is just so entrenched with the movie that hearing it gives me goosebumps immediately. And the real fun thing about this is it's not, even by 1978 standards, a big budget horror by any means. They made do. And quite frankly, when it comes to making films, there are so many. If you listen to the podcast, I use this a lot. Money destroys imagination in many ways because when you have to figure something out, when you have to figure out how you're going to get that shot, when you have to when you're trying to figure out how to make your monster's face. Oh, we got a William Shatner mask. Yeah, that'll do. These things, having to improvise, as they say, necessity is the mother of all invention. Having to do these things will allow you, I think, as a filmmaker, to be more connected to the art that you're creating. So that's why when you see like a low budget or an indie movie come out swinging, doing the best they can with what they have, and it hits, it's either a cult classic or it's a hit, you know. But people are going to notice it and they're going to love it. Unfortunately, now the trend seems to be just because something, you know, you captured lightning in a bottle, as they say. There tends to be this overreaction of what to do to follow that up. And one of the first things they do is say, you now have a bigger budget. And not just a little bit of a bigger budget, but a lot bigger of a budget. And that takes away some of the ingenuity of what helped capture the magic the first time. And Halloween, I'm not saying the sequels do this by any means, but this first movie introduced us to a horror icon. It introduced us to horror tropes and themes, and brought us to a place that so many people have tried to emulate, but again, never quite duplicate to the degree that they got away with, even when these other movies have bigger budgets.
Totally agree.
Halloween is Halloween. Halloween is spooky season. And for all of you traditional and purists out there that are like, then if you have all these things to say about, you know, Halloween, why isn't your number one? Well, because even with all that being said, there is a movie I like more. But we'll get to that in a minute. But Halloween is my number two. It deserves to be on my list.
All right. Well, it's a good number two. And I do actually like everything about the Halloween franchise. Slasher movies are not my favorites, although there's plenty of slashing in Candyman and plenty of slashing in Child's Play and quite a bit of slashing in Jeepers Creepers and Hellraiser. It's not it it's different. It's not the slasher trope is not quite as prevalent. I don't know. Child's Play is probably arguably the most. Yeah, it's a slasher, but it's a doll. Come on. My number one how is um is again one of those movies that's like everybody's heard of it. Not everybody is like super aware of what it is. They just know the title. But they haven't actually seen or have only seen parts of the movie. It's the story about a dad who is looking for revenge for the death of his son. And he goes to this witch in the middle of the woods and says, okay, can you bring him back? And the witch says no. And then he asks for the next thing, which is basically to unleash this holy hell on the people who killed his son. It's called Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead is a staple in our house for Halloween. We must watch it every Halloween. It is the kind of movie that, again, you know, the aspiring filmmaker in me loves the perfectly scripted beginning, middle, and end. Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 seamlessly blend together. It is absolutely crazy and off the rails when it comes to how this creature is portrayed in the movie. So much of what is portrayed is actually not seen, and so it makes it that much more scary when you do finally see what is going on. It is really terrifying. um I have to give huge props in this movie to the practical effects that they used instead of going for maybe the lower hanging fruit, which was, cheap CGI. They really did a good job of making it feel like this thing was very present. And the terror it's palpable. So on top of having sort of like a story about a guy who's just trying to basically get justice for his son, you also have this understory, which is he realizes that justice for his son eventually means his ultimate demise. It's really good, well told, classic kind of scary story, but with a little bit of a spin, because it's more of a no, I don't want to say it's a morality play, because it's not really a morality play, but there are plenty of philosophical questions underneath it that I think really work. So that's my number one. Every Halloween, we absolutely have to watch Pumpkinhead. And I'm assuming you haven't seen Pumpkinhead.
I've not seen Pumpkinhead.
Oh, God. Every time I put Pumpkinhead on, one of my kids immediately says, "Oh, look, it's Bishop from Aliens." And yeah, that is always pretty hilarious because, yeah, no. It's not, I mean, same guy, but it's not Bishop from Aliens.
Or is it?
I mean, that crossover is a little bit too freaky, and I am not sure I want to know how the Wyland Corporation works into Pumpkinhead. You can just leave me out of that spiraling fan fiction. My head hurts just thinking about it.
Well, then I guess it's time for my number one.
It is time for your number one.
Well, my number one spooky season movie is one of my favorite movies of all time, which is why this topic left me ecstatic, because I knew immediately what my number one movie was going to be. It was directed by Richard Kelly, released in 2001. It's Donnie Darko.
Wow.
Now,
that's your number one Halloween movie?
One, it's set on Halloween. Frank the Bunny, tied to Halloween. And it has one thing that I absolutely love: time travel elements.
This is true.
Can't go wrong with time travel elements. And spooky, there's a giant rabbit here. What's going on? Jake Gyllenhaal puts in an amazing performance as the titular character, who is being sort of goaded into what seem like random acts of criminal mischief that eventually lets a lot of ugly things come to the light of day, as well as trying to, Donnie's trying to figure out why he feels off, why he feels out of place in this world as he, keeps going day by day, meets a girl, and none of it feels right to Donnie. Well, things happen. I'm not going to try and spoil things. And I'm honestly not sure if I could, because one of the most common Google searches when it comes to Donnie Darko is, what happened? There are a couple of different versions you can watch out there. The director's cut is more hand-holdy. It gives you glimpses into a certain book that kind of explains some of the phenomenon that's happening. I kind of prefer being in the dark a little bit. That's just me. But just knowing you have options, if you haven't seen it yet, it's good to know. And one of the let's see.
What can I just wait? Can I interrupt you? What for you makes this a Halloween movie? Like, because I agree this is actually an amazing movie, but what gives it the Halloween feel?
Well, the ambiance, it's very much set in darkness, right? It's got a very solid creepy undertone, especially as Donnie is seemingly borderline psychotic as he's trying to navigate his own life. It has this air of uncertainty throughout it. And like I said, luckily, it also has the added ambiance of being set on Halloween, or at least the climax is Halloween. Um, Jen, I'm starting to doubt your commitment to Sparkle Motion. Yeah, if you've seen the movie, you'll probably laugh at that.
So, okay. So, obviously, we should recap the movies, but I'm going to say that this list was completely and totally unexpected. Unexpected meaning like none of the things that I thought were going to materialize did materialize,
Mm-hmm.
except I think it's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, which I feel like, yeah, I mean, that just seems normal. But all of our other choices were very unique and really, I'm not even sure if everyone would argue, other than maybe Halloween, which I do think is sort of a classic to watch on Halloween. I'm not even sure if our movies are necessarily Halloween fair. We didn't mention Hocus Pocus. We didn't mention any of the Halloween Town movies, which
Low
are
hanging fruit.
super stupid. It's true, but we also didn't go with the Frankenweenie. We didn't go with any of the Shrek movies, which are for some reason super popular around Halloween.
That's
We
weird.
didn't. None of those. I know it is kind of right. I think there's a. I think there's a Netflix show that is like, super creepy Shrek stuff. But we didn't choose any of those. We really sort of gave this list a life of its own with all of these different ideas. So I feel like this was an odd success. Like, it is definitely a different kind of hey, what are your spooky movies that you watch at Halloween? I, I can say that any one of the movies that we have chosen on both of our lists are very worthy of watching for spooky season. Some of them I think are spookier than others, but they all sort of fit. So I do think it was good. We did a good job. So go ahead, you recap your movies first, and then I'll recap my movies. And then you can tell us what is on tap for next week.
Alrighty, so my number 10 was Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Number 9, Casper. Number 8, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Number 7 was Beetlejuice. Number 6, Willy's Wonderland. Number 5, Poltergeist. Number 4, Ghostbusters. Number 3, Young Frankenstein. Number 2, Halloween. And my number 1, Donnie Darko. Your turn.
All right. My movies beginning at number 10 are It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, Coraline, Candyman, Child's Play, Hellraiser, Jeepers Creepers, Little Shop of Horrors, The Witch, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Pumpkinhead. So what are we? What's our topic for next week? What is my homework?
Okay. I know that when it comes to figuring out spooky movies, you are the queen. But I am nuts. So my homework to you has to reflect that. So, in the spirit of Halloween, your homework is your top 10 favorite costuming decisions in movies.
Oh,
Because
that's it.
yeah, good costumes make for, good Halloween, yeah?
Yes, absolutely. Also, good costumes can make or break a film.
Now, I'm hoping that we don't go down a rabbit hole of, well, I was watching Breakfast Club, and those are some iconic overcoats. So let's talk about that. Whether it's a period piece, a sci-fi
I think I
piece,
know what you're
or
talking about. Yeah.
good.
I think I have a good idea.
Hopefully, this will cause you to put your thinking cap on a little bit,
Yeah.
and we get
I
some really
already
interesting.
have some ideas, which I will definitely explore during the week. Probably make a list and reshuffle it at least twice. So yeah, there's that.
Like right now, I came up with a list, and I have no idea what I want to put on it. Not a clue.
Well, one of the interesting things I think about costuming in particular is that, first of all, obviously, period pieces are, heavy with costuming ideas, and sometimes they can be phenomenal. But costuming can also be subtle.
hmm
Blade Runner would not be Blade Runner without the costuming choices that they made, because there are just some really epic choices for all of the individual characters and places that he goes. Some of that stuff is pretty amazing. So I'm super excited about this. This is going to be good.
I am too, and I know you're super excited about this spooky season because moviesandmeals.com has been tackling this subject for quite a while at this point. Yeah, tell us about that.
Yes. So it's still spooky season. It will be until at least October 31st, maybe even a little bit more. We tend to just skip over Thanksgiving because, yeah, everybody knows how to cook a turkey. But uh, not everybody knows how to enjoy a good scary movie with cool snacks and interesting meal choices. We again are doing baking over this weekend, so we've got lots of new stuff that is going up to the blog. I'm a little bit behind in posting, but I do have stuff that we did last weekend that will be heading up there too. So all different movie choices, lots and lots of good stuff. The Witch is on there. Hellraiser's on there. um I'll have to come up with something for one of Josh's movies as well. So join us over at moviesandmeals.com. And also, if you like to hear about all things TV, of which there are plenty of new spooky series coming out, join us for TV dinners on Thursdays at 8:30 Eastern Time. And we talk about all kinds of things that are TV related. This week, we're going to talk about comedy and, yeah, some ideas about what it is that makes things funny for us, what isn't funny, what's gone out of vogue, what was funny 10 years ago that all of a sudden isn't funny anymore. Lots and lots to discuss. So join us for that as well. And of course, for 10 to 1.
Beautiful, beautiful. And if you want to find me out there, go to wicomedia.com. Check out TV dinners as well as the Wadcast. The Wadcast, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific every Friday night, where Brandon and I, by the way, Brandon couldn't make last week's episode number 106, so Jen did a fantastic job filling in for what's his face. And
Super fun. Super fun.
I also had a lot of fun, but it appears this week Brandon should be able to be back. What are we going to talk about? I don't know. It's not 10 minutes before showtime, so find out Friday for episode number 107. Whew. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us here tonight as we go over our part 1. That's right. It says part 1 because this is a 4-part series. Spooky season has officially infiltrated all of 10-1. It's not always going to be, frights and stuff because there's more to the season than just being scared. Tricks, treats, we get all that coming in droves as 10-1 continues for the month.
Don't forget candy. That really is actually like the most integral part of Halloween that there is. It's the candy. So let's not forget that either.
I do believe I'm the only one that introduced a chocolatier on the list.
It's true.
So until next time, Jen, it's been a blast tonight. Look forward to hearing you tomorrow night. And once again, thank you everybody for joining us. So, outro line now.